Today's episode of Transqat is available as an audio-only podcast. This is Transqat, a safe space to stand. Transgender issues, queer people, respectful conversations. I'm host Claire McCarthy. Welcome to Transqat. Welcome to the first of Transqat's Voices of Pride 2025 episodes.
But it's December. Pride Month was 6 months ago. It's almost 2026.
Yeah, I do know that. Thank you. With all the work surrounding our 100th episode, I fell a little behind, but, better late than never. In Connecticut this year, Transqat attended events in Middletown, North Haven, and Madison, and we crossed the border to the north to be at Hampshire, Worcester, Holyoke, and North Adams. Lots of diverse voices, lots of stories.
So sit back and enjoy Voices from Pride Part 1. Just really, really late.
But I remember the last show I binge watched. It was Quantum Leap.
The new one?
The new one.
Oh, wow.
With Mason Alexander
Yes.
Park. Yes.
Oh, right. I watched the first one or two because Mason was in it, and it just didn't... Now, had you been a fan of the original? Or are you too young for that?
No, I'm almost 40, so It was around, but my parents didn't allow television. So, I come from a very rural area called Gaylordsville. Not up to the name. It doesn't live up to it.
Here in Connecticut?
Yeah, Northwest.
And there are, as far as you have seen, there are no Gaylords there at all.
Back in the day, people used to have cool last names, and they would name towns after it, but it had nothing to do with their sexuality. My name is Sparrow. I'm gender fluid intersex and 38.
What would you like people to understand better about intersex folks?
Can I get a little dark?
Please.
I went through conversion therapy because of my intersex life. Was that a little too dark?
No.
I won't go into the details. So,
conversion therapy because of your physicality?
Yeah. I was born an intersex woman.
Okay.
A lot of people look at me and they think I'm a trans woman because I give traditionally cis masculine traits, but also have a huge chest. But I was born a cis woman, woohoo. But my father... This is my third time transitioning, if we're going to be...
Okay.
Well, because I have regular puberty, and then the testosterone years, and then the estrogen year. My father was born before World War II, and it's not to say that all old people have backwards views, because my grandma was great, and she was born in 1917. But my father really wanted a son. He had 4 already, but he really wanted one more. And he put me through surgery. He said that I was... Because as a child, I was more of a tomboy. Mm-hmm. He figured, I can make a man out of you. He took Mulan and made it worse. But it's interesting is because as I've grown, being intersex is such a variety of experiences. Like, a spectrum is as vanilla as a way I could say it. But what I wish people knew about intersex people is that we are everywhere. What's fascinating to me is when I was growing up, I would go to intersex conferences, and a lot of cis men would show up in their 50s and 60s because they didn't know they were intersex until they got tested.
Right.
And they say that we're, I think, 2% of the population, but considering how little testing we do, I'd say it's a lot more.
I had a doctor from Boston on the show last season, but he said he was comfortable with a 3 to 5 million people in the States estimate in terms of when you're looking at hormonal and chromosomal and exterior genitalia and interior genitalia. He said 3 to 5 million people in the States is not an unreasonable estimate.
Not really at all. I mean, when we think of women with PCOS and how of an overlap that is, and we don't even consider it. Yeah. There's this idea that when we're taught biology, that intersex is kind of taught as, oh, you're a combination of man and woman, and then they just move on. Most people, when they hear intersex, think you have both parts,
right?
Which sounds hilarious and fun. Unfortunately, not the case.
To whatever extent you're comfortable, tell me about that conversion therapy thing. How old were you?
When I started, I was 8. We couldn't do hormones because my dad's doctor was awful, but was like, we're not going to start hormones at 8. But I started hormones at 13 testosterone shots, patches, the whole 9 yards. When you think of like HRT for trans masks, it's that.
I was just going to say, that's the disingenuousness of the argument against trans care for youth, because they're quite comfortable administering HRT to intersex kids.
The right hates trans people, but they test out everything that they hate about us on intersex children. Like conversion therapy, forced hormones, forced surgery. I had forced bottom surgery at 15.
Oh, Sparrow, I'm so sorry.
No, I've made my peace with it. Like, I'm 38 now, and people say, do you want to get bottom surgery when they meet me as a trans person? I get to be like, again? No.
I'm good.
God.
Thank you. Isn't it most of the time, though, that those sorts of forced surgeries are on infants?
They are on infants, but when I was born, they thought there was a chance that it would just develop.
Yeah.
Can I use body parts?
Please.
I was born with an enlarged clitoris, and my dad wasn't sure at the time because the doctor's like, well, you could transition them now. You could put them through surgery, infantile surgery. My mom had more of a say back then, and she has more of a say now. We've done so much therapy. Oh, my God. So there was no surgery as a child. Could have been. I lucked out. They did it way later when I was 15. Well, we use humor to cope with it.
Yes.
You know, like, I'm older than my dick is. I think that's really fun and silly. Is this too? Why, bodies are weird, and they're born weird, and they're made weird, but we like to say that they're one or two, and then it's like a million other things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You described this earlier, that if you are one of those million other things, they just push you into the margins, consider that an aberration, and then every time it comes up, it's like, no, that's not the norm. But now you've had 3 to 5 million of these people. Why is this still a statistical anomaly to you?
Because cis supremacy is just weird white supremacy. They want it to be a duality of man and woman, and then they constantly fight among themselves what it means to be a man or a woman based on, like, personalities. But if you get down to the nitty-gritty, like in the Olympics, the reason they stopped doing, DNA or genetic testing is because a lot of the people were like, oh, my chromosomes don't match what I was told. And
Have you read Castor Semenya's book?
No.
Oh, my God.
I love reading.
So painful. There was all this hoopla about, looks like a man, runs faster than all the women, must be some sort of trans person.
Sounds like racism.
And oh yeah, definitely, and that comes across in the book very clearly as well. Basically took her into a back room and examined her, at which point she found out that she had internal testes. Once you're in the margins, you don't matter. We can take you in the back room and examine you, because you don't matter. You're doing well now.
Awesome.
You look amazing.
Thanks. It's the drugs. It's the 400 progesterone a night. I'm happier now. My mom and I have a good relationship. My dad is kind of losing his mind, so it doesn't matter because he's very old. But I'm better now. I've had a TikTok channel for a good long while where I talked about conversion therapy all the time. Unfortunately, a little bit more than I wanted to, because as soon as I started talking, people are like, I want you to tell me everything. And I'm like, I want you to pay me for that. But I'm an anarchist, so I'll do it for
other
free.
People who have been through conversion therapy reach out in solidarity?
Yes. A lot of people will ask questions like, I didn't even know this existed, or they'll compare it to, like, circumcision or whatever. But it is good to get the conversation out there. And, like, I didn't have a lot of followers. I think the most people I reached was, like, 100,000, which is a drop in the pond. Getting it out there was good, was important. And I came out as a survivor of conversion therapy and as an intersex person when I was 32. So I have exes calling me and being like, wait, what do you mean?
How? Yeah.
What do you mean? Were you lying to me? Like, no. You're all trans. Were you lying to me? Anyway, T for life. Trans for trans forever. But a lot of people reached out. Some people very much tried to tell me what being intersex was like, which is, it's like when a trans person comes out and a cis person's like, no. You have to be A, B, and C. Cisplain what transness is.
My dad actually worked in television. Now he's retired. He ran a series of local TV stations from Alabama up to New York. Not a very like hands-on guy, right? So there was like one particular time that we moved and we needed to like do some maintenance on like a table, putting it together or something. And the only hammer in our home was a hammer from Home Improvement, signed by Tim Allen.
Wow.
And that's what we used to fix that table. My name is Eleanor. I live in Northampton, Massachusetts. I feel like a lot of my experience in my local trans community right now is hanging out with all these girls who figured themselves out in 2020.
COVID time.
Yes.
Yep.
And like had time to cook. And I'm so happy for them. And I am so full of grief and remorse at the same time.
Wow. Okay. Tell me about that balance.
I transitioned in 2019. Did not expect any support from family, moved very far away.
You were telling me before we started running the mic that you were from Alabama.
Yes.
So,
ironically, I think if I had come out earlier, maybe that would have stopped some of my family from going as into some rabbit holes that maybe they should have stayed out of. But I didn't. Waited until March of this year, so long time.
wow.
But I transitioned in 2019. 2020 happened. I was looking for work right before. Started a really high-intensity case manager community job.
Okay.
And being closeted, transitioning very quietly. Like, I was out to my employers, but still, was like presenting as a man in my day-to-day. And there's a thing in community mental health work where over time, sometimes there will be people who really struggle with boundaries, particularly with women.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are a man in that field, you end up with a lot of the clients who can't be appropriate or are struggling to be appropriate. So over the course of a couple months, I ended up with a caseload that was men who I was hanging out with for work and were, being really hard with their language towards my coworkers. Meanwhile, in my head, I have this like internal monologue like, oh, I'm really a frog in water here, putting myself in more danger, and with COVID happening, really was feeling like I couldn't leave, and like made the choice to detransition because of that. This only ends badly, and with everything else happening in 2020, it just felt like there were going to be other problems that were going to prevent me from like having care.
There was so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
I mean, somewhere in the back of our heads was, okay, this is going to pass, but we really had no sense of how long or what the consequences were going to be.
I totally get what I was thinking. And like, no, I don't want to say it's like anyone's fault. It's not my fault. It's not those clients' fault. It's not my coworkers' fault.
That guy over there,
it's
his fault.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is that guy's fault.
It is.
He has a sign. You can't see it, but he has a sign out, and it says, this is my fault.
But at the bottom it says, I'm sorry. So there's
great.
a degree of remorse. So where are you now in terms of this? You decided to detransition back then?
I retransitioned about a year ago. Went back on HRT in November 22nd, anniversary of the JFK assassination. So
what could possibly go wrong?
So both me and John F. Kennedy were successfully shot for the first time on November 22nd. So that's my favorite joke to tell. But it's wonderful. For me, it was important to be shortened to Ella, and my dead name also ended in and I don't know an Eleanor. Didn't really have anything connected to it.
And how have things been going now that you're moving back toward a transition path?
It's been lovely. And, I have a lot of, I mentioned the grief. I have just so much love for that version of me in 2020 who didn't have the support that she needed. And now I've got like community around me, and family was mostly supportive. I feel really good about where I am.
This episode of Transqat is brought to you by Goodspeed Musicals. Goodspeed is a non-profit theater known around the world for producing high-quality new and classic musicals. Overlooking the banks of the Connecticut River in East Haddam, the Goodspeed is one of the most scenic destinations in the state. The Goodspeed has announced its 2026 season lineup. It opens with Jesus Christ Superstar in April, followed by Crazy for You, Gershwin and Tap Dancing, The Snow Goose, a world premiere, and Annie, which will celebrate its 50th anniversary of debuting on the Goodspeed stage. Learn more at goodspeed.org.
My name is Amelia Lacey Littlefield. I am Black, Puerto Rican, and white, and I started transitioning when I just turned 18, and I've been going about it for around 2 years now. I have been working hard to stay hopeful in a very dark place. I have people who support me. My best friend Maria, of course. She's the reason I'm still here, and I work hard to stay alive, and I try to give people the support that I can while being me.
Do you feel that you're in community? Are you part of groups besides your friends?
I'd say not yet, but
Okay.
I'd like to be. It's hard when I'm still trying to figure out my kind of limitations when it comes to being out in public and social.
Sure.
But I want to be able to do that, and I want to make good in the world. As a kid, I always wanted to help other people who were struggling, because not everyone has safe places to go to or family members who are helpful or supportive.
Supportive, sure. How are you balancing all that angry rhetoric with self-care?
I try to write poems in my spare time. I wrote a lot when I first went into a mental hospital during my attempt. I wrote a lot. I wrote as much as I could, and it was one of the main things that I'd say helped me cope. With poetry, there's no really any rules. Free form, haiku, spoken word, it doesn't really matter. It's good to just write it out and then put it in the kind of cadence that you want it to be in.
Do you ever perform it out, or are you just writing for yourself?
I've shared it with other people, and I'd like to perform it sometime.
Yeah. I don't suppose you have any of your work with you today.
I do. So, this poem I wrote with me about my struggling with eating and how it kind of can help you sort of feel calm when you're feeling stressed out. And it's hard when you don't always have something to eat, but it's called Crunch. Whenever I would suffer a loss, the first thing I do is go eat my favorite snack. The feeling makes me feel less empty, although it all seems so rash. Eating to fill a void inside my head. Bread can't fill that hole, doesn't matter how you slice it. I'll never truly be full.
My name is Cass, and I am transmasked, and I am 28. I think honestly when I was young, I've always kind of been more masculine, and having a hard time coming out to my family as well was difficult growing up, especially kind of being compared to my sister a lot, and I think just kind of coming to terms with like my androgynous appearance and being comfortable with who I am was a journey in and of itself. And then I think this year I came out and I became more open about it.
How was your family?
It's kind of hard for them to kind of grasp or really understand. I think that they know about it and they don't really, I feel like they don't mind, but they probably don't kind of, they're not really educated with how a lot of this stuff is nowadays.
Sounds like there hasn't been a conversation per se.
There hasn't really been a conversation. I don't see my parents a lot. I see them whenever I can, like whenever we can get together. But yeah, there hasn't really been like a discussion about they know about my sexuality and like, you know, my fiance I'm dating. I have mentioned that I'm trans on Facebook many times.
Here's the big question.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
How am I doing today? I think I'm doing good. I woke up, I was like, you know what? Let's go to Pride. I mean, I'm here with my friend Tony today, and we're all kind of vibing and hanging out together.
My name is Teresa, and I am a resident of North Adams.
A long time ago, I was a resident of Adams.
Okay.
30 years ago.
So what was it like then? Same as now as far as like...
Well, I don't know what it's like now. It was not a very queer-friendly place.
It feels like it's still not a very queer-friendly place.
No.
We only went there for school, and I would go there to drop off my children and then come back, but it didn't feel like that welcoming of an environment.
No,
And then I felt like there was like more of like a... Maybe North Adams and Adams had split as a result of some of that.
Well, Williamstown, of course, is a college town, so you're going to find there's a little more wealth and a little more diversity. North Adams, when they put Mass MoCA in, became this drawing place for creative people, and I think you see, you've seen since then more. Well, the fact that you're having a Pride night tonight.
Oh, well, I've only been here since 22, so...
Okay, so yeah. So
I moved here from
back.
Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, far, far away.
So tell me about Savannah these days in terms of the challenges of being queer.
Well, that's why we're here.
What's that?
That's why we're here.
Okay.
So
right.
we moved to a place where my children could be protected.
Yep.
So it was not going to be in Georgia, and they were not going to get any kind of assistance or health care that was necessary to facilitate living.
Yeah. Without breaching anybody's confidence, tell me about your kid's situation.
I have a 17-year-old, and he came out in 21. And
as trans.
He was not well taken. And more by my family than my husband's. My husband's was very opening, but they're also from up here.
Yeah.
So he's been in Savannah for like over 20 years. We met over 20 years ago. Anyways, they were very accepting. My family was not, and they started doing a lot more with like politics.
Oh, yeah.
That was more in the Florida trend, and so we were in a position where my husband was like, oh, I loved Pittsfield. I'm nostalgic for the changing of the foliage, which people in Georgia do not.
How did you do with this information that your child was trans, had perhaps a different trajectory than you had imagined?
I wasn't surprised.
Okay.
Let's just say it like that. Like I was, but I wasn't. So it wasn't a problem for me.
Oh, good.
At all. I just was like, okay. He kind of came out and he just was like, how do you feel about people who are transgender? And I was just like, I feel like people should be who they are. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then he came out.
When he did that, when he told you this or asked you, that's such a great question. Such a terrific way to ask. Did you at that point have the information you needed to be supportive, or did you have to go out and find?
I think I still get information to be supportive. Even with Berkshire Pride, I volunteer with them, and I took their course on language and how to use proper language. And even though I might feel confident speaking to or about people, there are things I don't know about a lot of things. So I feel like just it's an ongoing learning experience.
I'm Lycan Bailey. I'm 22. I've grown up in Durham my whole life, and going down to school and just sort of going to a new place where no one knew me, I was able to start experimenting with my gender, and I'm transmasculine and have known that for a while but not been out about it.
Yeah.
But I was able to start experimenting, and I was working with different pronouns and a different name, and when I came out to my parents, my mom was hesitant, but that was because she was worried with medical intervention. But I understand that. But as soon as she saw that I was happy and I had a certain glow and like joy about me that I didn't have before, she was fully behind it and wanting me to be true and happy to what I was.
Well, full disclosure, we know each other. We knew each other when you were in high school.
Yeah.
And I see that, I feel that radiating off you when we meet at these things.
Yeah.
There's a sense of confidence. There's a sense of being at peace in your body that did always seem to be missing a little. Overall, and we don't want to bash anybody, but overall, what was it like going to school in Durham?
In Durham, I had a weird experience because I was going to school in New Haven at the same time.
Right.
And Durham was fine. I was just sort of there. I knew folks there, but the friends who I want to really stay in touch with are mostly in New Haven. And there was a small group of trans folks that I was close with in Durham as well. And I'm still relatively close to them. I talk to them frequently, and I want to go out and get lunch with a handful of them soon.
Durham, you had both ends of the spectrum there in terms of there's a very vocal, right-wing, intolerant bunch, but there are some wonderful people there too.
There's so many wonderful folks in Durham. Even in like the worst areas, you can find the pockets of fun and the pockets of great people who just want to celebrate you and be happy.
And you do seem happy.
I'm so happy now that I've been on T for 2 years now, somewhere around that.
Oh wow! And things going well with it?
Wonderfully. And I have a top surgery date set for November.
Oh, fantastic!
And I'm just so excited to where I am and where I'm going.
They really should eliminate the dogfighting competition from Pride.
Yeah, it just seems kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, right. That's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
frosting is an all-occasion kind of thing.
It really is. I'm Madison Hitchcock, and we just got to Pride for Middletown. Here we are. It's my day off. I'm thankful for it, even though it's great. It's not sweltering heat like last year.
Last year was rough.
Yeah, so honestly, good day.
Do you want to spin the wheel o' stories?
Sure.
Millions of dollars spent on this technology.
Coming out.
All
That's
right,
always
all right,
a good one.
All right, I want to hear the coming out story.
The closet has been open for a minute, thankfully. And
How long ago was this? Let's start with that.
We're going to rewind. I was grateful enough to have queer aunts in my family. So I've always been knowledgeable of, like, that can exist, that lifestyle. And in general, I've always felt the world is your oyster. Everyone should be an option, essentially. You got to get to know what you like, what you don't. And girls have been a part of that since age 9. That was my fresh, now I know. Capital K. There we go. But point being, I'm grateful that that closet door has been open and it was never really locked.
And it sounds like family supportive.
Yeah.
Everybody
really,
was.
Yeah. Like my mom said, that's always been great. And hey, if you have people supporting you, that's what matters. Spin the wheel.
Tell me a story.
I'll go with this one.
First queer kiss. You can't just choose.
Yes, you can't. There are no rules.
So, I was having this birthday party with all my friends, and then...
Okay, I don't want to interrupt, but how old are we talking?
Oh, it was a long time ago. This is sixth grade.
Okay.
5th grade.
All right.
So, one of my friends, his name is Ashton, he basically wanted to have a little sleepover after. So, yeah, we're having the sleepover, and then he asked me, he was like, yo, do you want to experiment? So, yeah, a lot of gay stuff happened.
Was it a good kiss? Because
it wasn't.
Sometimes the first kiss.
No, it was. It was not good. Okay. None of us knew how to kiss.
And does Ashton know this? Maybe we shouldn't be.
Oh no, he knows this. He's pretty gay now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But my first real one was high school. It was senior, so we were having a after prom party, and yeah, basically. My friend was like, yo, I'd kiss anybody here. So I was like, I just took the opportunity.
I'm Silas. I go by he, him. I'm a bisexual teenager in Massachusetts. I'm a singer. I do theater. I act. I do all sorts of stuff.
Wait. A queer person in theater?
Yeah, of course.
What?
I've never heard about this before.
No.
I've never seen a bisexual man in theater.
I think you're confused.
I think you're...
So we spun the wheel o' topics and we landed on queero. So tell me about a queer hero or mentor of yours.
I definitely have a couple, but one that pops into mind, I have 2 moms. I was raised by lesbians, so I guess my mom definitely pops in my head. She's a big supporter of mine and everything that I want to do.
Oh. Shout out to Mom. We love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. We love you, Allison. And then I definitely...
Not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but
of course.
How was that growing up? Were you in the Northampton area where not an uncommon thing?
I was in East Hampton growing up.
Okay, so
still not an uncommon thing to see, but still relatively rare to meet another kid that I know that has two moms.
Was it ever a problem when you were in school, or?
I don't think I ever really ran into people that were mean about it or rude, but I definitely ran into people that were confused about how it worked.
All right.
They were like, yeah, how are you here? How were you born? And I was like, well, now I gotta talk about this. Now I gotta talk about this. Oh, yeah.
And you said there was somebody else.
I have my mom Allison and my mom Rachel. There's the two of them. And then they were married. They got divorced. It's okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No.
Always for the better, I think. I think if there's a divorce, there's a reason.
Are you still in touch with both?
Yes.
Yeah.
I still love both of them very much.
What is it? One of the topics that comes up on here pretty regularly is bi erasure. You're walking around a Pride event today, so maybe it's the wrong place to ask because everything seems to be represented here.
Yeah,
but how do you feel about that? Do you feel like bi folks are left out of the conversation sometimes, or?
I do. I think that a lot of the time it's put on sides with like very big extremes. So it's either like, I think people don't really talk about bi people as much as they are like, oh, I'm straight, or oh, I'm gay.
Yeah.
There's never kind of that middle ground where it's just like, and I kind of just call myself bi because it's like one of those things where it's like you don't really know, and I just kind of like who I like, and I'm kind of just living my life. But yeah, I agree with that. I think that bi people are everywhere.
I've heard rumors.
They're everywhere.
Even at this table.
Even at this table.
Sometimes life is good.
Sometimes life is great. I think that, and yeah, today's been great. Yeah, it's a great place to be on a Saturday.
How do you find your Transqat?
The player at transqat.com.
TRANSQAT.com.
On YouTube,
Spotify,
Apple Podcasts,
Amazon Music,
and iHeartRadio.
Basically, anywhere that you find your podcasts.
What if I need one more place to listen?
You can also find us at WESU 88.1 FM, Middletown, Connecticut. The show is broadcast Tuesdays at 1 a.m. and is available online.
WESUFM/schedule.
Click the link to our show and put it in your ears.
That's a threat.
Definitely not a threat.
Hey, I hope we do this all day instead of working.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
You and I started talking because I could tell that the shirt you're wearing is an original.
It is.
Tell me what it says.
It is. It is the original Act Up Silence Equals Death black t-shirt with an upside-down pink triangle. And it was developed by the Gran Fury Collective, GRAN. FURY Collective, which was a group of about a dozen people, artists in New York City, many of whom were ACT UP members, and some of whom were my friends. Some of them had art backgrounds and marketing backgrounds, and they knew that to capture what was going on with ACT UP, as well as to catch the attention of the world that was ignoring AIDS and HIV, that they needed something. And so they developed this logo. And then it went up everywhere in New York City, posters everywhere. And then they started selling T-shirts.
Now, for those who maybe are too young to remember, tell us when we're talking about.
ACT UP started in the mid-'80s, and I got this T-shirt at my first ACT UP demonstration when I was in college. And it was, I think, in 1988, and it was an ACT UP demonstration at the Capitol in Albany. And a whole bunch of us from my college in New York State got on a bus and went to the protest, so that's where I got the T-shirt. I think it might have cost $15.
Outrageous.
Well, it was, I actually think that might have been all the money I had in my pocket at the time. We were trying to get the New York State legislature to do things that weren't so awful, I think.
Now, was this just a protest the way we think of it today? Because ACT UP had some very creative protest ideas.
Yes, that's true. For ACT UP, this was a much more regular protest. You know, it was on the steps of the Capitol with signs and podium and people speaking and people cheering. And there wasn't a lot of audience, pro or con, because probably most of the legislators were home in their own districts for the weekend. You know, ACT UP, for those who don't know, they did what at the time were highly controversial protests that really had the goal of bringing a lot of attention.
Yes. There was the dumping of the ashes through the fence onto the White House lawn, right?
Yes. But probably the first, there's sort of a trio of at the time, they were controversial even within ACT UP, that people really had a lot of different feelings about the direction forward. Should they work within the system or should they work outside the system? And they ended up doing both, which was ultimately the most effective way. But they had a protest at a church in New York where people went in stealthily, and at a certain point they lay down in the aisles or they held up signs of I guess it was the Cardinal of New York. I don't know too much all the titles of the different religious people, covered in a condom, and the tagline was "Know Your Scumbags." So yes, a lot of people got arrested at that protest, including an acquaintance of mine, Ann Northrup, who was very involved in some of those protests. They had another stealth protest at the Stock Exchange where they went up and unfurled a banner. And then there was a third one that was particularly controversial, which was at the NIH, directly protesting against, again, where they sort of stealthily went into a building and they were protesting the lack of treatments and the lack of research towards treatments.
Right. The lack of research, the lack of affordability of AZT once that finally came onto the market, it was nobody could.
No, it was beyond anyone but the most wealthy person's reach. It was really awful. Probably the first queer, gay kind of protest I ever went to was actually at my college when a few quote-unquote Republican students invited William F. Buckley to speak. This was maybe in 1986-ish. And at the time, he was very vocal that all gay men should be forcibly tattooed on their rear ends, their derrieres, their fannies. So yes, he was, along with other people, were proposing that gay men should be tattooed on their butts as a way to warn other people and prevent the spread of HIV. There was also, at that time, a lot of talk about sending all gay men to Cuba, that they should be exiled, which I think is interesting in our current times where people are being sent to gulags without due process. And, the people who are familiar with protests over the last few years, maybe about what presidents have done, things like that, or even if you're a little older and you maybe remember some of the protests around Wall Street, the protests around the AIDS movement that ACT UP was really part of, they were quite different, as well as the kinds of marches for gay pride back then in the 80s. So, the pride marches in New York City then were still controversial. There would be counter-protesters. So I remember on the 25th anniversary of Stonewall, I was actually marching. I had a job in the gay rights movement. I was working at an anti-violence project. We were working closely with some of the gay police officers. We were trying to there was a lot of work to get crimes against LGBTQ people as hate crimes, so there would be extra penalties and also better investigation of them by having special squads. So that was in the work. So we were marching, and we had been put purposefully right next to the Gay Officer Action League, which were all of the gay police officers in New York. And they couldn't march in their uniforms. They had to, be off duty. And it was very controversial. It was risky for them to march. So we were marching next to them to sort of add to their numbers. And as we marched down Fifth Avenue, down the very cathedral where ACT UP had that protest, there were an entire line shoulder to shoulder of uniformed officers. And there were all down Fifth Avenue, to keep the peace and all that. Most of them were fine. But those officers were all off duty, I found out, and were not supposed to be in uniform. And when the Gay Officers Action League and us, when we approached the cathedral, on a secret signal, they all turned and faced the cathedral, the church, and put their backs to the marchers, to the gay officers.
A wall to...
And that also that goes against their code in terms of what they are supposed to do. If they were working, they were supposed to be facing the parade, the march. It was an act that sort of implied great violence. It was not a violent act in itself, but it was a very...
The message
it was
was clear.
Scary to walk by as they all turned on cue. And then as soon as we had passed the church, they all turned around again. And they had clearly planned this ahead, and we didn't know that was happening. It was awful.
As someone who has the perspective, what do you think of gay rights movement now, quarter of the way through the 21st century, and those, I was going to say the heyday, but the worst days of the AIDS crisis, and where things seemed really, really dire.
Yeah.
In terms of tactics.
Well, I think things are really so much better, and I know that we feel very disheartened now in the face of so much attack against transgender people and what the government is doing, what the Department of Defense is doing against military members who just want to serve and keep us all safe, and what's being done against veterans who did serve and deserve all the benefits that they've earned. So, things are better in the face of all of the current things going on. But I think what was really missing from the beginning of the ACT UP movement was what we now call intersectionality.
Yes.
I don't think that was a word that anyone really was using or understood, but we certainly did talk about it then. ACT UP really was born out of the despair and the anger and the suffering of almost entirely white gay men, many of whom were very wealthy, who had been able to many times insulate themselves from the worst of homophobia. Many of them had lost their families or jobs, so sometimes they were closeted, but they had ways of insulating themselves against some of the worst of what happened in our country and what happens in our country. And it came out of their own experience, but they really needed the perspective of people of color, of white women, in order to help them understand that when someone is oppressed, then no one is free. It was something, sitting in ACT UP meetings on Tuesday nights, I can tell you, there were lesbians from the beginning who were working, but it was the gay men who were putting themselves front and center, usually white men. So one of my friends, actually, who was in the Grand Fury Collective, who did all of the incredible graphics and messaging, he was the only person of color in Grand Fury. It was almost entirely white gay men. So I think that what's really different now is this understanding that if, for example, gay people are out here today on Pride talking about what we are wanting for our civil rights, for our equal rights, for our livelihoods, for our life, that we can't ignore what's happening with immigrants, no matter their sexual orientation or gender identity. That, if the immigrants are being disappeared into another country without due process, then it could happen to any of us, and we can't just speak about the things that impact us personally. So I think that, to me, is the biggest difference, and I think the younger people today have grown up protesting and in a movement acknowledging that all of this is together. I mean, I certainly was very involved in the gay rights movement when there was very little acknowledgement of bisexuals and of transgender people. I mean, actually, transgender wasn't a term that was used very much back then. So often it was transsexual was the word. It's not a word I use anymore. If people who have that identity want to use it for themselves, then I would support them in doing so, but I don't feel that it's a word I want to use anymore. But yes, it seems silly to say intersectionality is different, but that's certainly true.
It wasn't part of the conversation.
It wasn't often part of the conversation, and one of the sort of big failures of ACT UP, I think, was how slow they were to recognize that women were getting HIV and dying of AIDS, and no one was paying any attention. And another campaign of ACT UP was women don't get AIDS, they just die from it. And that was a very powerful campaign that went for a long time, because the very protocols of the research about HIV treatment excluded women. It didn't actually say it excluded women, but it excluded, everything about a woman, like having a uterus or things like that. And I mean cis women when I say women in this case. So women weren't eligible for trials. They weren't getting the medication that was being studied, and they were getting HIV and dying without anyone. The criteria for even giving someone a diagnosis of AIDS was systematically excluding women. Again, I mean cis women in this case.
Right.
And it was systematically excluding them. And as much as, of course, no one wanted that diagnosis, if you couldn't get it, there was a whole host of things you couldn't get, like you couldn't apply for disability. So women were dying in incredibly difficult circumstances maybe much earlier than they should have because they didn't have access to treatment. They didn't have access to disability to pay their bills. They couldn't cash out their retirement savings early because they didn't have a fatal diagnosis. It's, there's lots of stuff going on now around gender dysphoria, and there has been for a while, and some of the echoes are really similar to some of the things that went on about not creating the definition of having an AIDS diagnosis in a way that systematically excluded certain people. Yeah, and to me it echoes this idea of, do you have to have or should you not have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria in order to access the care that is life-saving and appropriate?
I'm Christine Rebstock, transsexual woman from Central Connecticut. I was a Middletown LGBTQIA plus commissioner. I helped put together Middletown Pride. It's one of the biggest in New England in terms of parades. And I was a former Middlesex employee for a quarter of a century, and I was on their transgender and pride committees. And so my goal was to link Middletown Pride with Middlesex Health System. And we started to have the joint, Middlesex would raise their pride flag, and then we would go to City Hall and Main Street for the Pride Walk. So we got I got both entities together.
And what are you doing these days?
I work still in a medical lab field, but a different company.
How is that company in terms of dealing with trans folks?
Oh, I have no problem.
Yeah.
I'm a regular caller, broadcaster on many talk radio, not only in Connecticut, but New York City. So my boss has listened to me call in talk radio.
What kind of stuff?
Politically talk radio, mostly. And that tends to lean conservative, but the hosts have always, I can't tell you the support I get from the radio hosts. Callers get rude, they'll jump in, producers will jump in, and they always have my back. And a couple times, I've been on Newsmax. Greg Kelly's out of WABC AM in New York City. He texted me a month or two ago to come on for a segment. Dominic Carter, the 3 to 4 p.m. drive on the station, had me on in March for a whole hour for the whole show for interview.
It's the holiday season, it's the end of the year, and everyone is asking for your money. Money that's in short supply. The last thing I want to do is add to the noise level. So, simply and quietly, please make a one-time or recurring donation. You can do it easily at transqat.com/donate. And if you're a queer-owned or queer-friendly business, sponsor some episodes. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Transqat. Back in kindergarten, when they kept telling you you're supposed to share your stuff, I was terrible at that, and I remain so to this day. I do not share my stuff well.
Yeah.
So
I like sharing. I was an only child, so I feel like sharing is like a fun novelty for me because I didn't have to.
Talking to Eden Briggs. Had nothing for breakfast.
Wow.
Because I got up late and I needed to take a shower because I did not wash my hair in a couple of days.
There's a hierarchy of preparation before you can leave the house.
I'm a femme. You gotta make sure that the outfit's put together before. The hair took a long time, so I was like, I just
well
don't get
worth
the time.
it. There are a great many mini barrettes.
Yes.
Strategically placed and colored.
Very strategically placed and colored. Yes.
Oh yeah. I'm Chels. I use they and he pronouns depending on who's asking. Sometimes they, them, sometimes they, he, depending on how much fun the space feels like. If it's a more fun space, they and he. If it's a space where like, I want to make like cis people suffer a little bit, like kind of a little bit of that discomfort.
But they're so nice to us.
I started using the he a little bit as a he, like a little bit of a fun thing where when cis people are sometimes like, well, they them so hard to get right because that's multiple people. And I am a person that looks like you can kind of tell my assigned gender at birth was female, like people can usually tell. And so when I'm like, oh, well, you can use he, it just kind of like, it stops them in their tracks in a way that's very fun for me, that I really like. And then after people did start using it, I was like, oh, this is actually really nice and fun, and I'm going to use it more and more frequently.
The pronoun question does, for some, a percentage of the cis community, it does seem to shut down a conversation rather than start it. So if you can do that in a way that encourages the laugh and letting down the defenses, that seems really smart to me.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's fun to have a thing where I did it a little bit as like a fun for me, and now it's become something that's been like a very genuine part of my identity.
Do we have a story that we want to tell? Do you want to spin the wheel of topics?
We did spin, and you've got queer joy.
I mean, I feel like I've been recently experiencing a lot of more queer joy because I grew up in West Virginia, and so
they're big on queers there. They
love the queers. They love us. Like, Bull Dyke is in my lexicon because that's what I got called often. For real, like when I pull that one out for some of the lesbians up here, they're like,
"But you're so
that's the old text."
presenting. That's not.
Yes, I'm like, hello.
Dude.
So now, like being up here, granted, like my best friend who still lives in West Virginia is just the gayest of gay men, and so we managed to find each other, and so he's been a huge part of like my queer joy. And then coming up here, I've really found a big community of like lesbians.
So somebody who was able to show you, I don't want to phrase it in a way that insults West Virginia, but shows you that there's a way out.
Yes.
And that there's, maybe things are tough here, but you could have the sort of life you wanted.
Yes. And he was also out before me, and so I've actually only just recently realized that I'm a lesbian because I have been out as bisexual since like
tell them how recently.
A month and a half. Thank you.
And I do notice that you have the official pair of lesbian sunglasses.
Which is so funny because I didn't even realize it because I've had them for like 4 years now.
But they're perfect.
They are literally perfect, aren't they?
Yes.
Like they have the perfect color, the gradients.
I need a pair. Yeah.
Honestly, you can find them online.
I'm going to this will bring the FBI to my home later, but I'm going to go home and Google lesbian sunglasses, and they'll be knocking on the door.
Yeah, I'll continue the theme of queer joy. So this one is a relatively recent one within the past little bits. My parents have been learning and warming up to the idea of me being non-binary for a while now. They're getting there. Like, they have their little moments where, like, they're not great on pronouns, and, like, my mom will still get me, like, queer stuff. She doesn't quite know the difference between all the, like, various non-binary umbrella, like, terms. So she'll get me gender fluid stuff and gender queer stuff, and I'm like, or, like, I think one time she got me, like, a bi-gender thing. I was like, that's not quite me, but, like, it's very sweet. They have foster children now, and we had to introduce the idea to 2 very young children of the idea of non-binary people, because me and my partner are both non-binary. And they really had some interesting, funny questions, because they were like, do you not know what you are? Do you not check? But yeah, they had so many questions, and we processed through in like developmentally appropriate ways. And then as soon as they kind of got the idea, they practiced them a little bit. And then it shifted very suddenly where they were like, actually, we don't care about that now. When are you 2 going to get married? Can we come to the wedding? What is the wedding going to look like? What are you going to wear? If you're not going to wear wedding dresses, can we wear wedding dresses? And it very quickly spiraled out of control from there. But it was so livid. They were like, okay, got it. Anyways, more important stuff, marriage.
My name is Charlotte. I have been transitioning for a few months now. I remember a story, actually, my friend told me. I came to Worcester Pride last year when I thought I was still a bisexual male, and I got, those pins that they make with, like, it says, like, my mood level, and you can slide it back and forth.
Yeah.
I got one of those, and for the rest of Pride and the next time that friend saw me, which was Start on the Street here in Worcester, the energy level was just at the bottom of the slider. And then a few days later was when I finally realized that I would be happier as a woman. It took me a while to even use the word woman, actually. I called myself a lesbian, a girl, a trans femme for a little while. I mean, it took actually living this way to get comfortable with that.
And you said it's been a couple of months now?
Yes, yeah. So I started with a rather low dose of estradiol in March, and I've been doing that ever since. I was, I guess, sort of socially transitioning, using the new name, using the new pronouns since last fall, but healthcare moves very slow, especially trans healthcare, so it took me a little while to finally get the actual hormones.
Are you finding that the estradiol is helping with the moods? You had said you were sliding the mood thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's night and day. I really have trouble imagining what life would even have been like if I wasn't, if I hadn't done that. I mean, I'm so much happier. I feel so much more comfortable in my own body, in my own mind, in my own self, that it's hard to describe, really. I don't know. I guess the best way to encapsulate it is that I was talking with an old friend from college recently. I said to them, any discussion of the past for me at this point of like what would I do different has to start with HRT. If I was 15 years old again, I would just I would be going to Planned Parenthood tomorrow. Whatever happens next happens next.
My name's Raymond. I'm studying pre-veterinary sciences.
Large animal, small animal, or is it not specialized yet?
Not specialized yet, but I have a particular passion for large animal, food animal. Part of my draw is, I mean, of course you have to be interested in the anatomy and all that science stuff, but I like the community aspect, the like public health aspect, that by working at those farms and stuff, I know that it's the highest quality food for the highest quality welfare. I'll spin the wheel.
Do it.
There's not a lot kind of off bars.
Maybe I can come up with a drum roll sound effect.
Queero.
So a queero is either a mentor or somebody in the media that is your queer hero. Somebody you looked at and said, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can...
I grew up in a military family, moving around a lot, so kind of south stretch. So I didn't even know what the word gay or transgender meant until I was like 12. Which is like a little late to be figuring it out. And already halfway through my gender crisis, I was like, wow, this vocabulary could have been handy. The person who immediately stands out to me was a good friend of mine, Felix. He was the first other trans person that I had ever met, like face to face, and really got to talk with him about it. And no, he was about 5 years older than me. So kind of just across the hump of all of the panic and fear and uncertainty that I had.
What was that like the first time you reached out to Felix to say the panic and the fear and the anxiety and what do I do?
It was surreal because so much of the anxiety and the shame and the kind of hesitation that I had all wrapped around those feelings, I would feel them while I was talking to him, but I couldn't hesitate to say it. And it helped. He was very open. It was like a community. It was like a pride event. He was doing like a tabling for like a queer community youth group, and I just started talking, and then it just started coming out. But he was there for me, and he loved me, and we've been very, very good friends since. And he's still a brother to me.
How's your gender journey going? I'm just going to interrupt you for a second there to say that you have the most magnificent sideburns.
Thank you.
That's because this is radio, people might not get the full effect of them. But
Oh, yeah. Big classic
How long
mullet.
did it take you to cultivate these beauties?
When I went on testosterone, I was very I didn't want to be scruffy. I didn't want to be like that peach fuzz guy. So I was like, let's keep it clean. Let's get good at it. I had to get into a shaving routine because even when I was butch, I didn't shave. So it was like, are you telling me I have to shave more as a man? Like, come on.
this is not fair.
I was trying to quit this. I was about a year and a half or something. Yeah, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I went camping and kind of lost it. And I noticed it was I had some good depth there. And I was like, I'll just keep this going. And it was important to me for my gender expression because I had run into the problem for many years of going to get masculine haircuts, and they send me out with a pixie situation.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, don't leave it over my ears. Let it come down. Just kind of letting that creep in with the confidence. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, I like to be rugged, and really kind of getting to embrace that masculinity, especially coming into college and kind of being at a turning point of passing and realizing that I didn't have to be hyper masculine to feel safe anymore, especially coming to New England and really getting to get to keep the parts I like, and it's made me feel so much better to embrace the femininity that I've had and loved. So yeah.
Well, I think that's something that even within the community we need to tell each other more, that gender is not a binary, that there are lots of different masculinities, there are lots of different ways to express your gender, and that's not wrong.
And ultimately that authenticity is not a weakness. Yep, there's the idea that there is a one kind of person that's supposed to lead or this or that or whatnot, and just But yeah, but the authority from authenticity cannot be challenged.
My name's Abaya. He, him.
Okay, I'm Levi. I go by it's, but honestly, I'm whatever.
Tell me about your decision to go with it's, if you would.
So, like, gender is a construct, right? But I'm not a part of that construct. It's like, it's optional, really. Like, it's, like, in society, it's not optional, but, like, it's kind of optional. Like, there's a lot of things that are, like, kind of forced upon you, but are, in the end of the day, still kind of optional. Like, I don't have to personally participate in it if I don't want to, and so I don't. I'm an experience. I'm an experience. I'm beyond my body. I'm what I was in the past and the future and everything like that. It's a thing. It's a tangible thing. It's a noun. I'm a noun. I'm an it.
That's a beautiful explanation. Thank you. Both of you have amazing eye art going on here today.
I do a lot of makeup. And I just touched this one's up, but they were responsible for most of it.
Levi actually did my makeup.
I like makeup. It's a good way to express yourself without saying anything at all.
It's because it can be just enjoyed, right? By people who are taking it in. They can just say, wow, that's beautiful. They can take it as, I wonder if this is intended to start a conversation. I wonder if Levi wants me to ask about it.
Yeah. It's a good way to socialize and do stuff.
If you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you did, know that we've been doing these Voices of Pride shows for a few years now. In Season 3, we covered the 2024 Pride season in episodes 61, 65, and 72. And there are more voices from 2025 Pride coming up in the near future. Next up on Transqat is a conversation with Rhea Brodell, the artist and author of the book Butch Heroes, and its 2025 sequel, More Butch Heroes. This has been Transqat. I'm Claire McCarthy. Thank you for listening, and let's talk soon.
This is Sadie McCarthy. I'm Claire's niece.
And you've just been listening to Transqat. It is made by one of my favorite people in the world, Claire McCarthy.
Transqat is a production of Transqat Enterprises, LLC.
Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.
Join us on the web at transqat.com.
That's TRANSQAT.com.
QAT.com.
QAT.com.
There you'll find links to Transqat, the blog,
writing projects,
speaking engagements,
and our PayPal donations page.
Please consider supporting our mission with your monkeys.
Monies. Your monies.
Your monies. Not monkeys.
Please consider supporting our mission with your monies. Any monkeys will be gratefully received as well.
Follow Transqat on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
On TikTok, we are at The Real Transqat.
Want to tell your story on air?
Or ask Claire a question?
What is the deal?
She has all the answers.
Or suggest a guest or topic for an upcoming episode.
Use the contact page at the website
or email her directly at crmtranscat@gmail.com.
crmtranscat@gmail.com.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.